How do we change the screen using QianLi's 3-in-1 screen separator? We'll describe the process with 4 fundamental bases: spare parts, tools, temperature, and time. For spare parts, we'll use a new glass that in the case of the iPhone can come with or without a frame, with or without OCA glue, or even with or without touch. With Android, with OCA or without OCA. What tools do we need? Basically, the separator, adhesive tape, and 8mm or less thread. By placing the adhesive tape in position before we start the process, it makes easier the separation, especially when the glass is shattered. What temperature do you need to work at? Around 100 degrees Celsius. If at 100 degrees it doesn't come out easily, we can raise the temperature to 120. And if 100 degrees is too hot and we're in danger of burning the screen, we reduce the temperature to 80 degrees. For how long? In a few seconds, the separator will reach the set degrees. When the screen is hot to the touch, it's ready to be separated with the wire. What's the maximum time it can be exposed to heat? Only as long as strictly necessary. Before making a change for a customer, you need to practice many times, as you won't get it right the first time. With experience, you'll know the maximum time it can be exposed. Once it's hot, we press the suction button. This function simply allows the screen to remain in place while the machine passes the thread comfortably and the screen doesn't move. And now we start. We place the machine on the heating blanket so that it doesn't move and doesn't slip. First up, we're using a Samsung screen for testing. We'll also test with an iPhone X screen. With the iPhone screen, we concentrate on removing the frame. We apply heat, and then we put this thin blade through the top of the camera. Once we find the space where the blade enters, we start to peel from the inside out, sideways. Because if we peel the frame upwards, we risk breaking it. We use the pliers to cut the frame little by little to make it easier to remove, doing so in parts from the inside out, sideways. Once we've removed the frame, we check the screen is still undamaged. So far, so good. Again, we warm up and pass the thread little by little. The fact that the base of the separator can move from right to left gives us more security in the process. The movement or technique to separate an iPhone screen correctly is the following. We make a diagonal movement and pass the thread down against the glass. In principle, we avoid cutting the flexor of the touch and carefully avoid cutting the touch as we go. Then another diagonal movement in the opposite direction, followed by a horizontal movement. We can repeat again and again, diagonal left, diagonal right, and horizontal. It's a process that takes about 3 minutes. After we've managed to peel it off, we see how easy the machine has made it. Once we separate the screen, we can check and see that it's come off perfectly. We then use alcohol to remove the remains of the OCA glue or this tool to remove it. After finishing, we check the screen one more time. The touch should work fine since we have removed the glass and not the touch. In the case of this Android screen, it's even easier. There is no frame and it's less delicate. Removing the OCA from the screen is easy when the screen is hot. We remove it with our fingers and, if needed, a little alcohol. To clean the last traces of glue, we can use these glass cleaning wipes. Cloth or paper would leave traces that are imperceptible at first, but then make it impossible to do a perfect job. The next part of the process is to fit the glass. So once the screen is well cleaned, we position a new glass with OCA included for ease and center it. Then we put it in the laminating machine to remove any bubbles. This process can also be done manually. You have to be very patient and detailed not to damage the screen, but it's worth learning something new and really useful for your workshop.